Welcome to The More Perfect Union, the podcast that offers real debate without the hate, sponsored by BetterHelp.com. I'm Kevin Kelton, along with Greg Matusak. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Kevin. I'm sitting here with some of my favorite impeach cobbler. Is that that's a thing nowadays?
Yes, and Ward Anderson. Hi.
Hello, hello, fun folks. De Führer, it is America today.
Yes, indeed. What a week. You know, as I'm sure I'm not the first person to say, this is like 2021 telling 2020 to hold my beer. The week that we had could not have been anticipated by anybody, and yet it should have been anticipated by everybody. So where are we? Insurrection Reflections. What do you guys think?
Like you said, we all saw this coming. The only people who didn't see this coming were the Capitol Police, who were not prepared for it. We knew this was going to be a horrible day. We knew the Proud Boys were going to be marching. We knew this was going to be a terrible, terrible show. We should have been more prepared.
Yeah, I was caught by surprise. I knew that there was going to be a protest. I thought it would be 400 people, 1,000 people. I had no idea that they'd get 20,000 to 40,000 people. And I also didn't anticipate that the Capitol Police and the District of Columbia would be so ill-prepared. This is a massive intelligence failure on the level of 9/11, maybe worse, because with 9/11 you had people outside the country using, encrypted systems to talk to each other. Here you had people using Facebook, Twitter, and Parler, and our security services could not detect the threat.
The thing about it is, I expected something to happen, as in, I thought there might be, a clash between protesters and counter-protesters, or there'd be some kind of outrage like that. Not only did I not expect people to storm the Capitol, I didn't expect that many to storm the Capitol. I didn't expect it would be as huge as it was. And in the first few days after it happened, we didn't get a lot of video of just how many people it was. There was a lot of photos and stuff, but now more and more videos are being released that show just how huge that was. Like, yes, many made it inside, but just the fact that there were so many outside too that were still clashing and being held back. That was the surprise.
Yeah, I mean, ransacking offices, kicking in windows, knocking over police officers. This is supposed to be the party that is pro-police, Blue Lives Matter, and yet they were knocking them over with fire extinguishers, pushing them over. And the police were completely unprepared. There was no riot gear. Where was their tear gas? It was frightening.
They were just prepared for a regular day at the Capitol.
Yeah.
Instead of, this should have been an event on par with an inauguration. You're doing the Electoral College count that is being contested. Again, I just go back to massive intelligence failure. Go ahead, Ward.
Well, plus on top of that, a lot of people have said, talking about, they're going to erect a huge fence in front of the Capitol. They're going to put a fence around it and everything like that for the future. You guys, I don't know how many people don't realize this. There is a fence available for the Capitol. It's a 7-foot tall barrier fence that they pull out and erect whenever there's a large protest in town. Whenever there's some kind of a large protest in town, especially one they think is going to be controversial, they put up a 7-foot barrier fence around the Capitol, and they didn't do it on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So here's a question I've been dying to ask you guys since Thursday morning. We now know that the House, the Democrats in the House, are very likely going to impeach Trump this week. We have people of both parties calling for Trump to resign. There's talk of the 25th Amendment. There's so much anger on the part of these Democratic and Republican House members and senators, it tells me that they are not just upset at the speech Trump gave. I think they know more than we do about what was behind the planning from the White House and how much coordination there was toward a violent outcome. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist on this. I think that I think that Pelosi and Schumer and the rest of these people, they know something that we will find out in the weeks and months ahead about exactly what was going on behind the scenes at the White House.
I kind of disagree. I don't think that it really takes a conspiracy theory on this. I think we've seen pictures of the senators and the representatives in their gas masks because they were at one point ready to expel gas in the chambers, tear gas in the chambers. We've seen them huddled down behind their seats. We've seen them with Capitol Hill police officers with their guns drawn, ready to shoot anybody who comes in. They were afraid. They were, dare I say it, like school children in a lockdown. So a lot of them might have PTSD of, I think at this point, that's why they're angry. It's finally coming home because it's happened to them. They are finally experiencing some of this Trump madness.
Well, I mean, there is a lot of that. There's a lot to be said. Isn't that what people have always said about school shootings? That Congress would never take it seriously until the threat was on them, right? So a lot of people are saying that's what they're doing now. They're finally taking this kind of thing seriously. This finally matters to them because of the fact that it affected them. It actually came for them. What I hope is that finally Congress realizes something that one side has been ignoring for too long and the other side has been pandering to for too long. And that's this belief that you could keep pandering or ignoring, pandering to or ignoring angry, radicals or just how angry the right wing has become, and especially Trump supporters, and how that anger has been building and building and building. And we've been warned about it. The FBI has warned about it. The Department of Homeland Security has warned about it. And they've just acted as if it wasn't really going to happen. And so many of us have been waiting, going, these guys are going to go ballistic. They're going to lose it, and they're going to lash out, and it's going to be violent. And I think Congress, I don't think they ever thought it was really going to happen, or at least it wasn't going to touch them. And when it happened, it touched them, right? And so maybe now, finally, people are going, yeah, we caused all this by either pandering to it or ignoring it, and now here it is.
This is going to be an awful thing to say, but I only say it to make a point. I'm afraid that we were one or two shooting deaths shy of getting a real response to this. I think if this had been just a little worse, because this is not going to be the last of these. This might be the inciting incident for, a 5-year series of these kinds of attacks. They've already caught people that were planning to kidnap, Gretchen Whitmer, attack other government institutions. This is happening in state capitals on a smaller scale. Everybody now is talking about what could conceivably happen between now and Inauguration Day. And I won't name the date because I've seen other media people saying let's not give too much of a platform to their plans. But I think that there is a real problem in this country, as Ward, you were kind of saying, about this entire milieu that started as, pockets of militia movements and then became the Proud Boys. I think they're all coming together to create a real insurrection army. And I'm not saying that we're going to be at civil war, but I think that there's going to be a new paradigm that is countrymen becoming patriotic terrorists. It's short of civil war, but a lot worse than what we've seen. Yes, Greg.
Okay, so two things on that. About 2 weeks ago, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, I agree. I'm scared with you. But Pat Toomey, Senator Pat Toomey was on, and a couple other people were on the Sunday morning, and they all kind of said the same thing. Like, I'm all for Trump, except for like this past week or two. Then he went crazy. I don't know what happened. I can't defend him anymore. And I think that's the majority of the base and the Republicans right now. They're all like, oh, we're all for Trump. We're all for Trump, except for like these past 2 weeks. And that's taken a lot of the shine. The point being is, for the majority of these people, they don't want to lose their cable TV. They will not be on the run. You will always have outliers. You will always have your Dylan Roofs. You will always have your Timothy McVeighs. You will always have your Bombers. But, there is things we can do about it. If you see something, say something. But you're not going to have a insurrection of half the country following Trump, especially after these past 2 weeks, because, well, he's crazy.
Agree to disagree there. Not half the country, but I'm saying a lot more than solo individuals. Ward, you wanted to jump in on this.
Yeah, I mean, we're going down this path right here, Greg, with what I just said about Democrats, is that they dismissed it or ignored it or said, no, it's probably not that bad, or it's going to be a handful or whatever. This was thousands of people because they were there in the moment. If thousands of people in the moment would have reacted this way, then that tells me that there's millions across the country who would have, had they been there, who would have been a part of it. And that tells me that if you have millions of people who are sympathizing with this, which we do seem to have, that tells me that you can find thousands who are willing to commit acts of domestic terrorism or try something like this again. For years, the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security has warned that right-wing domestic terrorism is the biggest threat to the American public, right?
Yeah.
So this week we saw what happened, and that was mostly, not entirely, but mostly impromptu in the moment, right? I know some of the people there totally planned it. Absolutely. But absolutely. I know a lot of people went along with it because it was in the moment. Okay? So what I'm saying is, if you have it like this, if this happened in the moment, thousands of people jumped in with, say, dozens of people who planned it or whatever, I don't think it's crazy at all that it'll happen again, because, let me just end on this, no real consequences have come yet, and most who were there will suffer none. There will be some who are obvious that are on video or whatever, but most will suffer none. So and we're still watching, as much as Republicans are denouncing it, they're still tiptoeing around it, trying to make these people seem understood, or that we need to hear them, more of this shit. So that's why I say, oh, it's going to happen again, because we didn't treat it like a terrorist attack. We still haven't treated it like a terrorist attack.
That's exactly what I was trying to make my point. This was their dress rehearsal. The target of this happened to be the U.S. Capitol, which is normally heavily fortified. But who's to say that, in a month or 6 months or a year and a half, the target won't be Twitter? Twitter must have a building someplace, and these people could be upset that Twitter, kicked off their guy. Who's to say it won't be CNN? Who's to say it won't be the kidnapping of a governor, or, they won't go after Nancy Pelosi where she lives? And that's my problem with what's happening this week. I don't think that this insurgency was quashed. I think it was given water and it could grow.
Yeah, so you're right. And there were people there who planned this. The people who showed up with zip ties, there were people who showed up with bombs. The guy who showed up in a car full of guns. Ted Cruz, he planned this. All those people should go to jail. And yes, Ted Cruz should go to jail. I have no problems. And I'm not just talking about Ted Cruz for the Zodiac killings. I'm talking about... Thanks. I'm talking about just for spreading those lies. And Donald Jr. for hyping those people up like a crazy person on cocaine. And I never said he was technically on cocaine, just like a crazy person on cocaine.
this is something that hit me